morning, everyone, and welcome to this 3-hour live finance team leadership workshop by FP&A Professionals Institute. My name is Dhawal Parvatikar. A little bit about me before we begin with, first of all, thank you for your trust, right? In this age of overloading of webinars and free sessions, you have taken out your valuable 3 hours to spend here to learn something new and so important, which is team leading. So thank you for your trust. And pat yourselves on the back for taking action. Statistics says that less than 3% of the people take active action to develop their careers. And no wonder you will see that less than 3% of the people are leading the world's organizations. So you have taken that action to be here today to learn something new. So make sure that you stay through till the end and maximize the benefits that you get from this webinar. So my name is Dhawal Parvatikar. Over 15 years of finance leadership experience across different companies, in India and in the Middle East. And I've also been a career coach over the last 5 years, and coaching finance professionals to get to the next level is my passion. And I'm also the co-founder at FP&A Professionals Institute, along with my partner, Asif Masani. And we have trained more than 5,000 students on various topics like financial planning and analysis, financial modeling, finance leadership, and much more, data storytelling and presentations, and much more. By qualification, I'm a chartered accountant. I've also completed my executive program from IIM Ahmedabad. I've served as a CFO in India and in the Middle East. I've led teams in Indian companies as well as multinational companies. So I come with a very diverse set of experience over the last 15 years. And across different cultures, across different set of scale of organizations as well. A little bit about FP&A Professionals Institute, along with my co-founder, Asif Masani. So we have established FP&A Professionals Institute. And 2018 is when the journey started, when I launched my first course called FP&A Foundations. It's available on Udemy and on our portal. 22 is when Asif published his best-selling book, all about FP&A, which is a bestseller in the management accounting category. And 22 is when we came together and we launched our 4-week signature program called FP&A Masterclass, which trains you on financial planning and analysis, everything that is required in FP&A. And then 2023 is when we kind of extended our partnership to launch more courses. We launched our self-paced course called 8 Weeks FP&A Launchpad. We launched a Master Financial Modeling course, which Asif runs, and it's a very popular. Apart from that, we launched a course on AI for FP&A and finance. Recently, Asif published his second book, which is called From Accounting to FP&A. We also launched our 6-month signature program called Certified Global FP&A Professional, which is an advanced 100-hour plus program for financial planning and analysis. I have also been doing finance leadership training over the last 3 years. And together, under the FPI umbrella, we have trained more than 3,000 students so far. So that's a little bit background about FP&A Professional Institute's journey. So before we start, let me clarify a few things, which will make it easier for you. If you're joined from your mobile phone, it is absolutely okay. We are not going to discuss any complex Excel sheets today, so it's okay. You can log in from your mobile. Absolute undivided attention is what I request from you guys. Get rid of all the distractions. These next 2.5 hours are going to be very, very critical. And we're going to cover a lot of ground when it comes to team leading, right? The method that we'll follow is watch, learn, and respond. At regular intervals, I'll ask you to put some comments in the chat box or react to certain situations in the chat box. So please be participative. The more participative you are, the more benefits you will be able to extract from this workshop. And I have a special surprise for everyone at the end of the session. So make sure you stay through till the end to claim it. Okay. So I hope all of you are excited and ready to take on this journey from an individual contributor to a team leader. Or if you're already a team leader, then becoming a better team leader. If you're as enthusiastic as me, drop a yes in the chat box. So let's begin with today's workshop, right? So what are we going to cover today? Now, you see, to become a good finance team leader, right, or any team leader for that matter, you don't need more finance and accounting knowledge, right? First of all, we need to rewire ourselves to understand. For you to graduate from an accounting or let's say a finance and accounting professional to a finance leader, you don't need more finance and accounting. We'll first try and understand why managerial skills are important. Why learn managerial skills or team leading skills in the first place. And then we look at different scenarios of becoming a manager. There are different scenarios. There are 4 different scenarios in which you are likely to become a manager. And each of these scenarios come with their own challenges. And you will need to understand how you want to overcome those challenges. And then mindset preparation, fundamentally, how an individual contributor thinks and how a manager thinks or a leader thinks are completely different. So we look at how you can prepare for that leadership mindset. The three-step managerial framework, which is a quick framework that I have introduced to help you take on a quick control of your new leadership role, especially if you're new to managerial and leadership roles. And then there are some leadership checkpoints, what leadership is not and what leadership is. There are some myths and mysteries around it. So let's bust them. And then finally, we'll conclude this session with some interesting examples and some next steps. Yeah. So that's what we're going to cover today. Probably about 2.5 hours. I've kept everybody on mute so that we are focused on the session, and I will allow you to unmute at the end of the session where we can do a detailed Q&A as well. So hold your thoughts, focus on the material that I'm sharing, and then we'll take questions in the end. So why managerial skills are important? Our quest to learn leadership skills will be more meaningful if we understand the why behind it. Now, there could be dozens of reasons why managerial skills are important. But in this workshop, I'm going to share with you 4 strong reasons of why managerial skills are so important in the corporate world. Number 1 is generalist versus specialist. Now, what is this? When you start your career, right, you have 2 broad routes to success. You can either become a specialist or a subject matter expert, so much so that people are ready to pay top dollars for your time. The other route is becoming a generalist. A generalist is someone who's not a subject matter expert, but he understands how do you put all the resources together and lead a team for success. That is what a generalist does. Now, let me give you an example. The gentleman that you see on your left, right, is Tony Robbins, right? All of you know Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is the world's #1 personal development expert, and he charges over $1 million for a full day session with him. And top leaders, top CEOs of Fortune 50 companies are his clients, right? So he's a subject matter expert. So similarly, you can become an accounting expert, a tax consultant, an audit expert, whatever the field you choose. You become an expert so that people are ready to pay top dollars for your time. If you are not an expert, or if you are not willing to put in that hard work to become an expert, then the other route is the generalist route. Now, I'll give you an example. The gentleman that you see on your right is Louis V. Gerstner Jr. Now, this guy is ex-CEO of IBM. And during the 90s, IBM was in a very bad shape. It was almost on the verge of bankruptcy. And at that time, this guy, Louis V. Gerstner, took over. And within a couple of years, he completely turned around IBM. And today we know that IBM is a large, thriving organization. Now, this is generalist skill. And here is an interesting part. Louis V. Gerstner was not from IT industry. He was working with American Express Bank for 20 years. But his leadership skills were so valued by the board of IBM that they got this guy and he did his magic. And within 2 years, IBM was completely transformed into a growing organization. Okay. So that is the power of a generalist. So all of us may start as an expert, right? We may start as an accountant. We may start as a finance professional. We may start as an accounting expert, right? But when we reach those middle senior levels, supervisory skills, leadership skills become super, super important. The second reason why managerial skills are important is individual roles hit a ceiling fast. Now look at any company for that matter. Every company follows a typical pyramid hierarchy where the junior roles are all individual contributor roles, middle level roles are all supervisory and managerial roles, and at the senior level, you are a strategic role, you have a strategic role or a leadership role. Now, if you remain an individual contributor, don't expect the result to be different. They can only pay so much to an individual contributor. At some point in time, you will reach the highest payment, and after that, you will start looking expensive to them. They can replace you with a younger 3-4 years experienced guy who is much more tech savvy. So it is a must for you to start looking at your next level. And every 3 to 4 years, you have to keep growing the ladder, or at least your role should widen. That is what you will have to focus on. Managers, on an average, earn 2 to 3 times more than individual contributors. Look around you and you will notice manager probably earning 2x more than you, 2 to 3x more than you. And his manager is earning 2 to 3x more than him in your manager. This is the universal truth, right? And I did some research on Glassdoor.com, right, which is a anonymous employee site which gives a lot of comparisons for you. So on the left, you will see some examples. Again, this is in Indian context, but this is applicable across the globe. I've seen this, that this phenomenon is applicable across the globe. On the left, you see individual contributor salaries like finance executive, finance associate, accountant, senior accountant, all of that. As compared to that, on the right, you will see managerial salaries like assistant finance manager, senior finance manager, controller, whatever the case might be. You will notice that these are easily 2 to 3x more than individual contributor roles. What does this mean? This means that if you have the capability to lead a team and take people together for a certain mission, then you will be paid more than being an individual contributor. If you wish to remain an individual, then you have to become a top subject matter expert. Yeah, that is the only route. So managers on an average earn 2 to 3 times more than individual contributor roles. Leaders start as managers. In the senior management, you will see leadership positions like CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO, COO, all these leadership positions, right? Their journey of becoming a C-suite leader started by first becoming a manager. So it wouldn't be completely wrong to say that these guys are advanced managers. Their journey started by leading a small team to become a manager. Yes, this was INR, but it is true across the globe. I mean, you take any geography for that matter, you will notice the same pattern. They started by leading a small team, and then they became advanced managers, and then they rose to the C-suite levels. Right. So it is imperative for you to start with your leadership role so that you can reach at some point in time, you will reach the C-suite role. And even if you want to become an entrepreneur, leadership skills is super important because you need to put a team together. You can't be a solo operator for long, right? So I hope these 4 reasons are strong enough for you, to stay focused on this workshop for the next couple of hours. Okay, so that's why managerial skills are so important and valued in the corporate world. Now let's do a quick activity. Now imagine a situation that where you are working as a vice president in a company. Okay, you're working as a vice president in a company, and you're handling a couple of team leaders under you, okay, managers under you. Let's say you have 3 teams, okay, and each of them led by a manager. Now, one of the manager in one of the teams quits the organization for whatever reason, and now you as a vice president will have to hire a new manager for that particular team. So what will you look at when you are going to hire that manager? Now remember that you are a vice president, so you have to start thinking like a vice president. Okay? So what would you look at in that particular person to hire or promote that person from somebody internal to a manager? I need some responses in the chat box, please. What would you look at? You are the vice president. Your manager has quit and you want to hire a new manager. No, leadership skills is very generic. Everybody likes leadership skills. Tell me what specific skills, 1 or 2 skills that you would look for. Strategic thinking. Okay, I can be a strategist, but I may not be a good team leader. Managerial experience. Yeah, somebody may not have prior managerial experience. Transformative mindset. First, let him manage the team. Then we'll think about transformation. Team handling experience. Team player. Team player might be one of the things. Subject knowledge. Yeah, I may be a subject matter expert, but I may not be a good team leader. For you to hire a manager, for you to hire proactive person. Yeah, I mean, I can be an individual proactive as well. For you to hire a manager in your team, right? In most of the cases, what happens is, and I've attended umpteen number of discussions where we are looking to hire a manager or we are looking to hire a senior person in the company, right? Or we are looking to promote somebody to a manager or a senior person. The number one thing that always came up in these discussions of whether promoting somebody to a manager or hiring a new manager is, and now what do I mean by readiness? In 80% of the cases, people will look at whether you are ready to lead a team. Everything else is more a way to justify that this person has the qualification, this person has number of years of experience, this person has. The point that I'm trying to make here, one needs to display that readiness, and you can display that readiness by doing stuff above your level. Whenever you get an opportunity to work on stuff which is above your pay grade, why should I do work which is outside of my scope, or I'm not paid for doing that? Why should I do that work? Yeah, that's a very narrow mindset. Everybody who is able to do stuff which is above their level, they have a higher chance of getting promoted because people at some point in time will see that this guy is ready. Why not, in the manager's absence, why not give him the chance? So try and build that readiness amongst you. It says every next level of your life will demand a different you, which means you have to be first ready for the next level, and then the universe will give you that next level. But the moment we hit there, right, and we notice that, oh shit, this is a different game altogether, and I'm not ready for it. So work on your readiness first, and then you can claim your spot. Right? When I became a CFO, right, that did not happen overnight. I started working about it or thinking about getting a CFO role probably 6-7 years even before I got my CFO role. Yeah, I started talking to leaders. I may have spoken to on different topics. Right? I have attended CFO programs, I've attended leadership programs, I've attended so many different articles, I've read books. So my readiness was there. And then one day when I was actually promoted to the CFO role, it was peak COVID, and my CEO called me on a Zoom call and promoted me to become a CFO. And I was so happy with that. But I know that there is so much of readiness that goes behind. Most of us want to claim that role without being ready for it. If you are ready for becoming a manager or CFO, whatever the case might be today, then the universe will probably grant you after a couple of years. That is the reality. So every next level of your life will demand a different you. If you see a next level in front of you, start preparing for it today, so that you will probably get close to it after a couple of years. Now, some scenarios in which you're likely to become a manager or a team leader, right? The first one is very simple, but very rare. Qualification to a manager. Fresh out of your post-graduation or graduation, you're given a managerial role, okay, and you're asked to directly lead a team. And this is what happened with me. I was a fresh qualified chartered accountant. I was working with a government company, and this government company had this clear distinction between managerial staff and clerical staff. And I was put in as an assistant manager, and I had 4 clerical staff. All of those 4 people were double my age. I was a young 23-year-old manager, and all of them were probably 45 plus, 20 years in the system. And here what happens is that observation becomes your key. I saw how other managers, or saw how other senior managers are dealing with these clerical staff who are much older, much senior than them. And I learned that, and then started behaving the same way. And fortunately, I had some great bunch of managers who coached me how to do that. But not all of us are lucky to get some great managers who are coaches. So this is the first one. The second one could be common. Start leading the same team. Let's say you're working as an individual contributor in a team, and your team leader quits for some reason. Or let's say your team leader goes on maternity leave. And now the management approaches you and says that, okay, why don't you lead the team now? Okay. Now, the basic thing that will change here in this scenario is that you will now be in the team leader's shoes. You can't think like how you were thinking when you were an individual contributor. By that, I mean that you will not be in the same club. When we are an individual contributor working in a team, it's pastime for us that when during lunchtime, we all get together and crib about our manager that, our manager doesn't understand things. He's like this only, right? Something like that. You can't do that anymore because you're leading the same team. So that equation changes. You will have to build a different kind of equation with your team members. Not easy, but you'll have to be aware of this. You can't start bitching about the management anymore because the management is supporting you. They've asked you to become a team leader. The third scenario is leading a different team. Let's say there are 2 teams, team A and team B. You're an individual contributor in team B, and team leader of team A quits the organization, and the management approaches you saying that, okay, you have been an individual contributor enough in team B. Now you come and lead team A. You have to be aware of that, aware of one of the situations. What will happen is, now within team A, there'll be some people who had these aspirations of becoming a team leader of team A. But the management has decided to bring somebody from team B and make a team leader, which means don't expect 100% cooperation from everybody in the very first few months. It will take time for you to build that trust. It will take time for you to build that rapport. And then you will be able to lead that team. You can't do anything about it, but just be aware of this fact. Yeah. And the fourth and the most common scenario is that you're working with a company A, and you hit a ceiling and say that the company is not ready to promote you to a managerial role. So you quit this organization and join some other organization which is giving you that chance. And you join as a team leader, okay, or join at one level above. Now, what will happen here? Again, like scenario 3, there'll be some people in that company who were aspirational and who wanted that team leader role. But the management has decided to bring somebody from outside the organization that they trust more, right? So there'll be some resistance from the team, some resistance from those people who were aspirational. And you will not notice that, but there'll be a subtle resistance in their behavior. That's number 1. Number 2, your manager will assume that you already know how to lead a team. So be aware of these 2 situations. You can't necessarily do anything about it. You can't build trust within a week with your new team. It will take time, but just be aware of the situation. Don't resist it. Don't fight it. Okay. Now, in these 4 scenarios, there are 2 common observations. One is that in 90% of the cases, you may not get to choose your team, which means you'll have to learn to work with a team that is given to you. The most common scenarios are that you will join from one company to the other company as a team leader manager. And there'll be already a team sitting there. Let's say there's a team of 5 people sitting there, right? With good or bad capabilities that needs to be figured out, right? So you'll have to learn to lead a team that is given to you, right? So second important observation is that your manager may not have the time to handhold you and train you in managerial skills. Because he has hired you as a manager, which means he's assuming that you already know how to lead a team. So you will have to probably figure out managerial leadership skills on your own. So these are the two observations that you will have to be mindful of when you take on a leadership role. Now, I bring you back to these 4 scenarios, different scenarios of becoming a leader. And all these different scenarios will come with different dynamics, which you will need to manage, which we just discussed. But one thing that will be common across these 4 scenarios is establishing trust with your team. Once you establish trust with your team, then your team will be ready to fight for you. Right? Until you establish that trust, it's going to be very difficult for you to lead that team. Okay. But now that brings us to the question, how do you establish trust? And I need some comments from you in the chat box. You've joined as a new team leader in an organization. There are 5 people sitting there who you need to manage. How do you establish trust with them? I need some responses in the chat box, please. Now we are getting into the deeper part of the training. Okay. If you are distracted, then get rid of all the distractions and focus here. Open communication with the team. Understand each perspective by having regular conversations, interacting and listening. Listening is more important. Right? If you understand their aspirations, their mindset, that will help you lead them better. Spend a few days to understand the contribution, build a psychologically safe environment. Can we do that in a couple of weeks? Not possible, right? First few weeks will go in understanding what is the environment. Then you will get to build your own environment, which will take time. Make them feel valued first few weeks. You can make them feel respected. That can definitely be possible. Come back and focus on the screen. Okay. Now there are dozens of ways to build trust with your team. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'll share 4 techniques of how you can build trust. And I'll share some examples as well with you. Be motivated and engaged. Okay, all these are good points. Let me explain to you how we can go about building trust. The number one way to build trust with your team is very, very simple. Help them. Okay, and I'll share with you an example. I was working with one of the large advertising companies. Okay, and advertising companies have a very active inorganic growth strategy, which means they keep acquiring companies every now and then. So we had acquired one of the companies, and I was working with a holding company. Okay, and that company was a mix, different cultures, different kind of mechanism. It had its own CEO, it had its own CFO, finance team, and everything, right? And we had acquired this company, and my job was to integrate their processes and bring them at the holding company's level. Okay, so when I went there to that company, that was in a different office location. For the first 1 or 2 weeks, I started noticing extreme resistance. They were not ready to listen to me. They were not ready to open up. They were not giving me information. They were not telling me about their existing processes, all these challenges. So I went back to the CFO and said that, and I used to report to the CFO at that point, and I said that, this is what is happening. And the CFO took an extreme approach. He said that, is that so? Then let me make you the CFO of that company from tomorrow. Then all of them will listen to you. I said, yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, but that will probably disturb things even more. The CEO of that company may not like it, that his team is being overpowered, right? It'll lose trust. It'll make us look too dominating, right? So then the CFO asked me, what do you want to do? I said, allow me for the next couple of months to work from that company, and I'll see what I can do. I need to first establish trust factor with them. So I started working from that other office. Okay. For the first 1 week, I did not do anything. I just silently observed what these guys were doing. And I saw what processes they were following. I did not try and contribute to anything. After a few weeks, I started giving my suggestions saying that, okay, why don't you use X process instead of Y, so that it will help you close the months much faster. So I did some automation, some macros and this and that. I saw that they were doing a lot of manual stuff. I helped them automate a few things. I was not doing this from a process to bring that process from a holding company standpoint. I was just doing this to help them. And they noticed that their life became easier. And then they slowly started trusting me that, okay, this guy is here to help us and not just boss around. So that impression of mine got mellowed down. Okay. And then they noticed that I'm here to help them. And then they started opening up. Then they started telling me about their processes. And you know what happened? 5 months after this, okay, we moved that company to the same building where our holding company was situated. Okay. And I was named the CFO of that company. And by that time, none of the staff, the finance staff, there were 6 people in the team, and none of them had any issues reporting to me. Because by that time, the trust factor was already built. And although all of them were senior to me by age, but by that time, the trust factor was already built, and they knew that I can lead their team and I can help them here. So helping your team is the #1 way. Be observant as to what they are doing. And if you can help them in 1 or 2 things, right? If you can make their life easier, that builds trust like no other, right? Second one is be honest. Don't be cunning in your approach, saying that get information from somebody, use it against the other person, right? Don't do all of that stuff. Try and be as honest as possible in your approach. It's good to be aware of all the information, right? It's good to be aware of all the gossip, what's happening in the company, but don't try and use it negatively or play around one against the other, right? The third observation is the way to build trust is truly listen to them, right? On one of the occasions, it so happened that one of my team members, I heard him on the lunchtime, and he was sitting in the table next to me, and I heard him say to his other colleague that there was some, on the coming Friday, there was some program in his son's school, and his son had won an award or something, and he wanted to participate in that, but it was monthly closing. So he couldn't have gone to attend that particular award function. Would you like to attend that? No. I'm okay if you come late on that particular day. Maybe take the first half off and then complete it. As long as you complete the work, I'm okay for you to attend it. Right? And this one gesture, okay, gave, and he attended that program. He came, extended the time. We were able to close the books on time. This one gesture established trust with him so much that every next time that I asked him to stay back a little bit late or work something towards a deadline, he was there ready to fight for me. Right? Care about your people, truly listen to them, then they'll be ready to fight for you. Give the benefit of doubt. Right? How many times have we had managers, right, who doubt that when we say that, okay, I'm not feeling well, I'm not going to come to the company today. If you are a manager who are going to ask for details, now what happened, which doctor did you go to? Can you get the medical certificate for me? Right? Then you are losing trust. So give them the benefit of doubt. All of us have done this, right? When we did not have the mood to go to the office, we have called in sick for that day. Okay? As long as people are doing this in moderation, it's okay. Give them the benefit of doubt. Okay? All these small gestures will help you build that trust factor with the team. Yeah, helping the team being #1. Now, there could be dozens of ways to build trust. Okay, and this, in the interest of time, I'm just capturing some techniques of how you can start building trust with your team. Okay. Now, let's do some manager fact check here. Right? We feel that there are certain items that are required to be a good manager or a team leader. Right? But that may or may not be true. So let's do some fact check here. Your career success is not going to be dependent on your qualification or the company that you work with. No, it is going to be a combination of these 3 things: your qualification, your skill sets, and your experience. If you are able to simultaneously work on these 3 things, right? Keep upgrading yourself with new skill sets, keep upgrading yourself with new qualifications, and gain that solid experience, right? These 3 things are a great formula for career success. Only qualification doesn't matter. Only experience doesn't matter. Right? You have to work on all these 3 things together for you to achieve career success. Right? Higher qualification will not make you manager by default. You might think that, okay, if I get an MBA, if I get a post-management qualification, my company should promote me to become a manager. No. Again, it will go back to the question on readiness. There could be 10 other MBAs out there who are not ready for becoming a manager. Right? So higher qualification by design does not make you a manager. Right? Sometimes there could be title managerial roles. Your title could be assistant manager, but you're not actually leading a team. Take advantage of this. when you are applying for the next managerial role, that company doesn't know that you're actually not leading a team. You can say, a very smart answer to say is that, yes, I was an assistant manager. Yes, I was a manager in my previous company. On paper, people reported to my team leader, but I had supervisory role. I had supervisory responsibilities on two of the team members. And routinely in your role, you might actually be training, or you might actually be subtly coaching or training other team members in your company. And when you're applying for that next team leading role, you see that I had a couple of people who had, who I had supervisory responsibility for. Right? That's believable. Right? Many companies do this. They have promoted you to become a manager, assistant manager, something like that. But all the people are not reporting to you on paper. And this happens. If you are experienced and you think that, I have 10 years of experience, I should now become a manager or a team leader or whatever the case might be. Okay. Don't assume that you know team leading skills. Number of years of experience doesn't mean anything. I have seen people who had 15 years of experience and they are only individual contributors. And they don't want to become team leaders, and neither they have the skills to become team leaders. So leadership skills is super, super important, and it doesn't depend on your experience, whether you have 1 year experience or 10 years of experience. Right? So start focusing on team leading skills today. Now, what are some of the mindset preparation required for you to become a good team leader? Right? Let's start with observation. Right? Observation is your first skill to become a good team leader. Observe the leaders around you. Observe the managers around you. That will help you understand what is the style of management. What do I learn from this guy? What do I learn from this particular leader? And then that will help you shape yourself as becoming a good team leader. Yeah. Now let's do a quick activity on this, right? I want you to tell me one quality that you have worked with when you have worked with a bad manager. Like all of us may have worked with a bad manager, right, in our company, or a strict manager, or a manager that we did not like, right? What was that one quality that you did not like about this manager? Type your responses in the chat box. All of you are jumping with responses, right? People love negative stuff, isn't it? Okay, micromanagement, anger, micromanagement. Every now and then they'll come and tell us what to do. We're all mature adults. I can handle it, isn't it? Anger issues, not investing in employee coaching, mentoring. They don't care about what the employees are learning, whether they're growing or no. Lack of trust, trust deficit. No, I don't trust you. I've delegated you, but I'll ask you 10 times, right? Discrimination, favoring some people. Selfish, thinking about only themselves. Ajay is a lucky man here. He says, in my 7 years, I have never had a bad manager. That is great. That is great. But that doesn't mean tomorrow you will not end up with a bad manager. But just learn from others as to what a bad manager looks like. No empathy, no care about yourself. Just be a taskmaster, right? Instead of leading, he's just concerned about the tasks, no matter what, what happens, right? Okay, not giving credit to team members. Yes, credit stealers are there everywhere. Hold on. Okay, focus and look at me here. Now that you know how a bad manager looks like, okay, and what are some of the qualities that you did not like, let's all take a small pledge. Okay, in our leadership roles, when we become a team leader, okay, we will not do these things, right? So we will not become a micromanager. We will not do favoritism. We will not, be a taskmaster. We'll give credit to our managers. Okay, can we all take that pledge? Type pledge in the chat box. So remember, you will not do this. Okay, but let me tell you some interesting fact. Okay, when you become a team leader, right, it is not by design that you do all these things. Okay, sometimes when you're asking stuff to your team member, you don't know that you're micromanaging, while the endeavor is to not engage in favoritism. Okay, but subconsciously you may do certain acts for certain team members, which other team members will think that it is favoritism. But yes, to a certain extent, we can control this. And that's what the pledge is for. We will make sure that we'll control this. Okay. Now, I want you to flip the coin. Say, all of us may have worked with good managers or great managers. Now, I want you to type one quality that you like about that great or good manager that you've worked with, right? Now, Ajay should be having many responses because he has worked with great managers. Appreciation. Yeah. Wholehearted appreciation for what the team has done. So important, isn't it? Recognition. Recognize for what the team is. All of us are putting in a lot of hard work. Freedom to execute the task. That is not micromanagement, right? So you trust the person, you give him a job, always be available for the team to listen to the problems. Leave approved. Ajay's favorite manager is somebody who approves leave instantly. Let me tell you, Ajay, okay, when you become a team leader and 5 people are sitting there in your team and 3 of them come and ask leave on the same day, at that time you'll understand how difficult it is to manage a team, right? Solution oriented, yes. Looking at solution, right? Providing opportunities, autonomy and independence, freedom to execute, caring, so many good qualities that you all stated, right? So you already know how to become a team leader. You already know what needs to be done when you're a leader, isn't it? Lead by example. You should be the person who is reaching at 8:45 when the team is coming. So all of that, all of these things are so important, and they build your leadership brand. They build your appearance. They build your quality as a team leader. And then if you want people to respect, then you have to be mindful of all these things, right? Now, you know some good qualities and bad qualities, which is amazing, right? But make sure that when you take on those team leadership roles, you are aware of these, build that awareness level and implement these in your leadership roles as well. So we started with observations. The second thing that you need to be prepared for is be ready to work with the team given to you, right? You may not always get to choose your team. So the higher probability is that you will have to learn to work with a team given to you. And everybody comes with their different strengths and different weaknesses. And you'll have to learn to maximize. A manager's duty is also to bring out the best in the team given to him. Not easy, but that is your role as a manager, right? So be aware of this fact. Be ready to learn the managerial skills on your own. Not everybody is lucky like Ajay who will get great managers, right? I probably have worked with 11, 12 different managers in my career so far. Okay. How many of them were genuinely interested in my growth? Probably one of them, maybe two of them, right? One of the CFOs that I worked with was extremely passionate about helping me become a leader. And he coached me of how to lead a team. He coached me what to delegate, when to delegate, how to manage a team. Not in a classroom environment, but more on-the-job training. Right? But not all of us are so lucky. There's a comment from Ayushi, says, I guess many managers become bad when they receive pressure from the management. Yeah, I mean, true. They don't want to become bad, but yes. So see, bad and toxic are two different things, right? So, and we'll cover about this point. Becoming strict doesn't mean that you are a bad manager. Strictness is required at different points in time. Yeah. But a cunning manager is something which all of us don't like. A manager which has he's different with the management and he's different with us. And all of us don't like this kind of manager. Coming back to the point, so be ready to learn the managerial skills on your own. You may not be lucky to find that coach, right? So which means you will have to learn managerial skills from external workshops like this. So start preparing your mind right away to start leading a team, right? And leadership roles or team leading roles are more of expectations management. It is about expectations management. Imagine for your boss, you are the team, right? So he expects you to be available for him as well. Right? And for your team, right, you are the boss for them as well, right? So you have to manage your boss, you have to manage your team, you have to manage your internal and external stakeholders. There could be 10 other cross-functional team members who are dependent on you. There could be external consultants, vendors, auditors, so many people who are dependent, customers who will be dependent on you, right? So you have to balance out all these people in your role, your boss, your team, your internal stakeholders, and your external stakeholders. So leadership roles are roles of expectations management. It's not just about delegation, right? When you learn to manage everybody's expectations, that is when you will be a great manager or a leader. Thank you. Cool. So now, here is one of the simple case studies, or I would say not a case study, but more of a testimonial that one of my mentees, Ronak, had shared with me, right? So he joined one of my advanced programs about team leading. At the time when his team leader, she went on maternity leave. Okay. And the management decided to give Ronak a chance to lead that team in the interim. And I saw his journey of getting transformed from becoming an individual to a team leader, right? And he picked up things so well that when the team leader who went on maternity leave, when she returned back, okay, the management felt that now again, disturbing this team is not good enough. Or where do we accommodate Ronak if everybody else is happy with Ronak as a team leader? Then where do we accommodate him if we can't demote him again, right? So they continue to keep Ronak as a team leader of that team, and they found a new team leader role for the returning manager who came back from maternity leave. Okay, which is good for her as well. I mean, she also got a promotion, right? So this way, I mean, displaying readiness, right, at the right time was what worked in Ronak's favor. That's what I wanted to kind of highlight. So start working on your skills right away. So we know by now that are very, very important for both monetary and professional progress. Okay. Managerial skills are something which at times you may need to figure out on your own, because not everybody is ready, or not everybody is lucky enough to get a coach in their team members. With that in mind, I want you to type in the chat box your readiness percentage. How ready are you to take on a team leader role today? Let's say today, if your management comes and says that from tomorrow, start leading a team of 7 members. How ready are you today? Just don't overthink about this. Just type your percentage in the chat box, 80%, whatever the case might be. Just don't overthink this. Go by your gut and type your percentage in the chat box. Somebody's saying 20, 25, 50, 60, 40%, 50%. I've had people in the past workshops typing 200% as well. But yes, most of you probably are in the range of 25 to 60%. Some of you are not commenting. That's okay. Let's focus on the screen here. Most of you are in the range of probably 25 to 60%. Let me tell you one thing. There will never be a time when you will be 100% ready. Right? It will not happen that, okay, 5 years from now at midnight, from next day onwards, I'll take on a team leading role. No, it will never happen like that. You are more ready than you think. So go for that team leading role right away. Okay. Team leading is a skills game, which means the more you play it, the more you will perfect it. Okay. Knowing some managerial skills will definitely make it easier. But today in this workshop, we are going to take one step ahead, right? Knowing a framework will make it even smoother. What is that framework? Okay. But after understanding this framework, I at least want you guys to move up by a few percentages. If you're saying 50, then you should at least be 70. If you're saying 25, then it should at least be 60%. Okay. Now, I'm going to share with you that quick framework. Okay. And this framework, which I like to call the 3-step managerial framework, is a very, very simple framework called assess, organize, manage. Assess, organize, manage. If you take on a new leading role, new team leading role, right? You will have to assess, organize, and then manage. Now, I'll talk about this managerial framework in a while. So now we are getting into the very thick part of this training program. Okay, I need your 100% attention. Okay, take a 1-minute break. Go have your sip of water. Go take a bio break and come back. Right? But now we are getting into the thick part of the training. I want your undivided attention. So I bring you back to this framework, the 3-step managerial framework, where I said it is assess, organize, and manage. Let's understand them a little bit. Okay. If you are taking on a new leadership role, or if you're joining a new company as a leader, all right, then these 3 steps become super important, right? First is that you assess the environment. Assess your manager, assess your company culture, assess your team, be observant about these things. And for the first 6 to 8 weeks, don't try to be a hero. Nobody expects transformation from you in the first 6 to 8 weeks. Take time to assess your environment. Who's doing what? Who has what kind of influence on your team? Assess all of these things in the first 6 to 8 weeks of your joining the role. And then comes organize. A key to becoming a great manager is to try and put as many things on autopilot as possible, so that you are available for your manager, you're available for your team to solve their problems. Okay? We learn it in a short while. Okay. But for the first 3 to 4 months, probably you will have to get better at being organized. You have to get organized with everything, put you in a better position to become a good leader. Then comes manage, right? How do you build relationships? How do you actually delegate to people? When do you delegate? What do you delegate? Right? What of these things? Also keeping an eye on the contributions. It's not just about managing a team, right? Your company will expect some things beyond your leadership role as well. They will expect you to contribute on some things. They will expect you to do some process improvements. They'll expect you to, get some monetary gains for the company, whatever the case might be, right? So they will ask you to manage the relationship. They'll ask you to manage the team and go beyond that as well, right? You can only do that once you have control on your role, control on your team. Yeah. So assess for 6 to 8 weeks. Don't be a process hero. Be a silent observer. 3 to 4 months, take everything to organize, or probably 1 or 2 months is good enough, right? And then you will know how to lead your team. Okay. So this is a very simple 3-step framework: assess, organize, manage. But let's dive into each of these steps a little bit and understand more about this framework. Okay. The first step that I shared with you is assess. Understand your position and hierarchy. Now, these two are different things. Let me explain to you with an example. In one of the companies that where I was working with, my title was a manager. Okay. But when I started delegating to the team, my manager did not like that. And he said, don't delegate this, you do it yourself. In other organization that I was working with, okay, where I didn't even have a managerial role. Okay. My title was a manager, but no team was reporting to me on paper. Everybody was reporting to my team leader. Okay. But my team leader routinely wanted me to delegate stuff to the team. Said that you don't do it, you get it done from them. Now, I fail to understand, what's happening here, right? So many times your position and hierarchy are two different things. What you will need to understand is the soft underlying power that you have. Do you have the power to delegate? Do you have the power to behave like a senior manager when you're a manager? Do you have the power to behave like a controller when you're probably still a manager? Right? These are some of the subtle observations that you are understanding. In my role as a manager, I was routinely required to interact with VP sales or VP operations, right? And for them, I was functionally equal. Many times they used to come and consult me. Many times they used to look at me as peers without looking at my designation. So you have to understand where do you fit into the hierarchy and what is that soft power that the better you are able to understand it, the better you will be able to lead a team. Many times we either underestimate or overestimate it. Okay. I did not know that I have this power until somebody came and told me that I can delegate this, or I can do this, or I can spend this budget, or I can take my team out for a lunch. Right? So be observant about these and understand where you fit into the hierarchy and what is your soft power that you have. You have to do a SWOT analysis of your team. Right? Let's say there are 5 people in the team. What are they good at? What are they bad at? Right? So you'll have to understand the strengths and weaknesses of your team. And this will not happen overnight. You'll have to do a simple Excel SWOT analysis for each of your team members and then start plotting their strengths and weaknesses over a period of time. And then you will be able to understand, and you have to keep updating that as well. Some people will be very good at compliances. Some people will be very good at talking. Some people will be very good at presentations. Some people are very good at getting things done from others or cross-functional teams. Everybody will have their own strengths. Don't expect everybody in your team to be a superstar. That's not going to happen. Don't expect everybody in your team to be a Virat Kohli if you're following cricket, right? Don't expect everybody to be Cristiano Ronaldo in your team. They will not be, right? But you need a mix of defenders. You need a mix of forward players. You need a mix of, all different kinds of people in your team, right? And appreciate that diversity. You don't want everybody to be equal. That's okay, right? Stakeholders. There could be certain internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. There could be some critical vendors, auditors, customers who could be influencing your team. And there could be some internal stakeholders like the sales head or some other business unit head or whatever. They could be influencing your team. So understand who are those stakeholders who have certain influence on your team and then manage them accordingly. Deliverables. List down what are your critical deliverables. What are you expected to deliver as a team? What are those top 5, 10 critical items? And who's managing it in your team? And who's the backup? Let's say if team member A goes on leave for 10 days, who's going to send this critical activity? Who's going to manage this critical activity? Who's going to send this report to the stakeholder? Right? Understand all of these deliverables. What is expected of you as a team? You list that down, and then who's responsible for it and who's the backup for it? Processes, right? Don't be a process hero. Okay. And don't get into that previous company syndrome, where once you join a new company and say, in my previous company, we used to do like this. They don't care. The management doesn't care what you did in your previous company. So don't bring your previous company up. Okay. If you still want to highlight about that, highlight it subtly as a best practice. In my past experience, I understand that this is done like this. rather than quoting your previous company. Don't do that. I did this mistake once, which costed me a lot. I joined one company and I noticed that for overhead expenditures, okay, so they were not raising a purchase order. Now, how do you spend the money? There's a purchase requisition, then there's a purchase order. Once the purchase order is given to the vendor will deliver the work. The vendor will then submit the invoice and you get the invoice paid, right? This is the normal process. And at the purchase requisition stage itself, somebody will approve it. Some manager, VP, whoever has the power to approve this expenditure will approve it. Okay. I joined this one company, and there, for incurring these overhead expenditures, there was no PO process. The guy used to send an email saying that I'm going to spend 5,000 on this. The manager used to approve. The work used to get done. And then the vendor will directly send the invoice. No purchase order system. For me, who came from a company which followed these best practices, extreme processes, right? This was a big shock for me. And I started escalating this to my manager, saying that, how come we don't do purchase orders here? How do we control things and all? She was from a non-finance background, but she had more operations background and she did not understand. So she went ahead and told the VP operations, who was also from non-finance background, saying that we are doing something wrong. Okay? And the VP called for a meeting, and in a very serious meeting in one of the rooms, we are all discussing that, Dhawal, you said that there is some fraud going on in the company. I said, I never use the word fraud. I said, then you said that the purchase orders are not there, which means we are doing something horribly wrong. No, what is that? What is that you tell me? At that time, I realized that, oh shit, what did I do? I was just talking about the process, and these guys interpreted it as something different. So then the VP operations was smart enough, and he said that, okay, Dhawal, why don't you do one thing? Why didn't you analyze last 6 months' overhead expenditures and tell me what has happened? Has something gone wrong? Okay, by not having purchase orders? Did you experience any fraud? Did you experience any malicious intentions? Did you experience anything that is out of the process? What happens if there is no purchase order? Can you do that analysis for me by observing the last 6 months' expenses and show it to me? I did that analysis. I spent a couple of weeks to do that. And to my surprise, there was nothing wrong. That was a big revelation for me, that companies can operate with different processes. Okay, what you think is a standard process need not always be the process. Maybe the company was just doing this to maintain a certain level of agility. Maybe the make and check in this company was so strong that they did not require a purchase order for this. Right? There are alternative ways to control. Right? So no process is good or bad. That's why I'm telling you that don't be a process hero for the first 6 to 8 weeks. Nobody is expecting transformation from you in the first 6 weeks. Be a silent observer. You will get your chance to do process improvements. Don't be in a hurry to do recommendations. Observe them, note them down. But you can start recommending after 3-4 months, once you are established in the system and once you have understood the environment fully. Okay. So that's one of the examples about processes. So assess your environment, your company, your culture, your position, team, hierarchy, stakeholders, deliverables, processes. Okay. Then comes being organized. Right? The key to becoming a great manager is scheduling, being organized, and trying to put as many things on autopilot as possible. Okay. How do you do that? As Robin Sharma says, right? The key to get things done is the things that get scheduled are the things that get done. Okay. So the key is scheduling. Schedule everything, right? Even the smallest meetings you block on the calendar, right? You put it in the agenda. You put it in the task, right? 60 to 70% of the tasks need to be on autopilot. Now, what do I mean by that? Imagine you enter the office as a team leader and all of the team members start asking you, what do I do? What do I need to do today? They will tell me. Everybody starts asking you this question. And it takes half a day for you to assign tasks to them. Right? That's not how it should be. The moment a team member comes and opens his laptop, he should know what are the deliverables, what are the critical urgent stuff that needs to be delivered in the morning. That should be scheduled. They don't need to think. Yes, of course, there'll be some out of schedule critical tasks that may come, some urgent tasks that may come, some firefighting that may happen. But that cannot be a routine. Right? For example, every Tuesday, okay, I will look at the project tracker. Our company was operating in projects, and there used to be a project tracker to understand the status of those projects. Some are new projects, old projects, some completed, some work in progress, right? So every Tuesday morning, I'm going to open it and I'm going to ask questions. Okay. Now, I'm not going to remind my team member who have delegated this task to update the project tracker. I'm not going to remind that team member on Monday saying that tomorrow. No, it is her duty. She has to do it. Right? Maybe 1 or 2 times I'll explain to her how this is done. But after that, it should be in her schedule. It should be in her calendar. Right? By Monday evening, she has to understand all the status and update it. Tuesday morning at 11. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to autopilot. Schedule as many things as possible. Every Thursday, 2 p.m., there was a working capital call. I'll look at working capital. Whoever is managing the receivables will come up with their updated status with commentaries from the business teams. So this way, you have to schedule as many things as possible, and it needs to be on autopilot. Every now and then, I'm not going to chase the team for getting this done, getting that done, right? Build 15 to 20% flexibility in your schedule, right? All of us are fan of to-do lists, right? All of us make to-do lists some day with something else, right? But managing a to-do list, don't give it up. Managing the to-do list comes with practice, right? When you prepare a to-do list, roughly plan out what do you want to accomplish in the first half of the day and what do you want to accomplish in the second half of the day. Keep some flexibility in there. I know 15-20% of the time will come when you will have to schedule something else, right? You will have to manage something else. That is just part of the job. So keep 10-15% flexibility in your role. You may have to also be available for your manager as well, right? Maintain a calendar and follow up the things that you have delegated, right? Delegating a task to a team member doesn't mean that it will get done, right? You never know that the team member may or may not have an understanding of that task, right? So when you delegate something to your team member, you have to also keep an interim check, right? You have to also keep reminders for you to follow up on that task, right? And you can do some soft checks by saying that, let's say we are on Monday and by Thursday, some report needs to be submitted to a certain stakeholder. And I delegate this to team member A. I'm not going to wait till Thursday and check if the report is ready to be sent. What if that guy doesn't know? What if he doesn't know he's stuck somewhere, he's doing something wrong? Actually, on Monday or Tuesday, or let's say by Tuesday, I will keep a reminder to do a soft check on this. By the way, Thursday, that report is due. Have you started working on it? Are you facing any challenges? Do you need my help in something? Right? Basically, what I'm trying to understand is, boss, have you started on it? Do you know how to do it or no? Right? So do those soft checks. Delegating does not mean that he will do or he or she will do and they'll get it done. But you have to also include follow-ups in that. How do you do all of this? How do you generate time for building this flexibility and all of the things that I mentioned, right? My favorite way of managing things is that I like to reach office at least 30 to 45 minutes before the start time. Like if the official time is, and for the first 10 minutes, I just settle down, have my sip of coffee, look at stuff, plan stuff. And then for the first 60 minutes or so, I work on my stuff. What is important for me? What is important according to me? And I'll work on that stuff. And then by 9:30, 10, then I'm available for them. Then I'm available for the CEO to discuss about Trump versus Biden. Then I'm available for the team to discuss about any problems that they might have. If I don't do that, if I don't spend that 60 minutes of focus time in the very start of my day, then I'll be the one who will be sitting late. I'll solve everybody's problems as a team leader. And then I'll be the one who will be sitting late to do my own tasks. I don't want to do that. I'm a morning person, so I like to start early in the morning. But you might be an evening person. So keep that focus time after everybody leaves then. Right? You have to carve out those 60 to 90 minutes of focus time, either at the beginning of the day, preferably at the beginning of the day. If not, then you'll have to carve it out at the end of the day. But my preferred way to do is reach office early, plan in, settle down, and that will allow me to control the team as well. That will allow me to set the priorities as well. Yeah. So that has been my way. Always keep a backup player for all the critical items, right? As many critical items as possible. So if you are seeing that there are top 5, 6 critical items which absolutely cannot be missed if somebody is on leave, then keep a backup player for this. And sometimes if it's a lean team, then you may have to also act as a backup. So that's a little bit about being organized. Autopilot, schedule as many things as possible, maintain calendars, checklists, make sure that you carve out a focus time for yourself. Make use of checklists, calendars, trackers as much as possible. Every company has a finance calendar, a monthly closing calendar, this checklist, that checklist, shared folders are available, right? Make use of them as much as possible. Be organized as much as possible. This is the only way to delegate. Otherwise, if every now and then your team member starts coming and asking you 10 different things, you won't be able to manage the team. You should be available for them as an escalation point. You should be available for them when something goes wrong, right? So try and be organized as much as possible and encourage your team also to be organized. So I'd say, okay, no, block 30 minutes with yourself for this. In that 30 minutes, you will not do anything else. You will only do this. So I used to encourage for my team members to carve out focus times as well. So to manage that, this is all about being organized. And the more organized you are, the more chances of you being a successful team leader. After assessing and organizing, then comes manage. Okay. First of all, you have to curb that natural tendency to do everything yourself. You need not do everything yourself. That's the first mindset shift that is required when you become a team leader. Okay. When I was a new manager, I used to jump on that task and start doing that task. Okay. But calm down. Right? If there is a new task that is being allotted to you or that came and falls in your lap, look at who in your team can do this. It's a skill set. Who in your team can do this? And then delegate it to that person. Now, in all probability, you may be also seeing this task for the first time, right? And your team member is also seeing this task for the first time. So no problem. Look at the team and then delegate this activity to some of the team members. Let's say, for example, there is some new report that needs to be prepared for a stakeholder. I delegated this to team member A and said that work on this. We'll review this in the evening or we'll review this tomorrow. In parallel, I have to work on that report and keep it ready. This is especially for the first time. And when that team member next day, when I used to discuss with him, either he may have progressed 60-70% of the times. He may have got 1 or 2 steps wrong. He may have got it right, as the case might be. If he's got it right, then I used to tell him, okay, send this to the stakeholder. Right? If he has not got it right, then I would say, okay, these 1 or 2 changes need to be done. I will not tell him that I have actually worked on it. Not exposing your team to new tasks is dangerous in the long run. If the stakeholder has asked this report today, chances are that he will ask this next month. Chances are that he'll ask this again next quarter. Right? So which means there needs to be somebody in your team who owns this. Even if you think this person will be able to progress only 30-40%, even if you think that this person will only be able to complete this 40%, 50%, delegate it. Don't think that, okay, if I delegate to this guy, I'll have to tell him 10 other things. Let me finish it off myself. That is the worst way to manage a team. The number of activities that a team will handle will always keep going up, right? So make sure that you curb that natural tendency to do everything yourself and delegate it to a team member. Okay, that will be beneficial for you in the long run. Now, here's an interesting point for you. Difference between a sports team and a team in your office. When we are playing a team sport, the singular focus that we have is to win the game or win the tournament. And all of us are focused on that, right? But in a team environment, that is not the case. First of all, on a day-to-day basis, you don't have an end goal that the team needs to achieve. It's business as usual, right? So everybody needs to work on a daily basis. So there's no. The second difference is that when in a team that is working in office, all of them come with different baggages, different personal environments, which we don't know. For example, somebody may be having a fight with his wife. Somebody may be going through a divorce. Somebody may be having problems with his parents. Somebody may be having aging parents or health issues at home. Somebody may be having a financial problem at home, right? You don't know what background they are coming from, right? So what can you do about it? Of course, you cannot solve their divorce problem. Of course, you cannot solve the problem of aging parents. But what can you do about it? Here is my technique, okay, which has worked for me. Again, I'm not saying you should do this. I'm saying this has worked for me. At the start of the office time, right? Let's say 9:30, whenever people start coming in. For the first 15-20 minutes, I used to keep a very, very light environment. Okay. When people start coming into the office, I used to just keep a very light environment by saying, okay, how was your weekend? Did you read that LinkedIn post that I shared with you the other day? Right? Or ask something about, what happened in the cricket match, something like that. Keep the first 10-15 minutes very light. And the reason I do this is to bring them out of their personal environment, bring them out of their personal misery that they might be going through. Right? And once they are in office, then I can start talking to them about work. If required, I can be strict with them as well. Hey, why did you not do that work the other day? I expected you to send me that report. Can you send that to me now? Right? I can start asking these questions. But imagine if I was a boss The moment that employee enters into the office, imagine if I start asking that employee, why did you not send me that report the other day? I told you to send it. It was so critical. I had no face to show to the VP. If I start behaving like this, right? First of all, I'm not able to solve their problems. And on top of that, they might be having a difficult commute. They might be traveling 2 hours to reach to the office. I don't know. And on top of that, if I'm a manager like this, why would my team be ready to fight for me when required? So try and bring them into the office environment first, right? And then you can be strict. Then, yes, Sagar has got it right. So build small conversations to, that helps really build trust. Yeah, that's right. So be genuinely concerned about them, right? That's what is required. Yeah. So this was my technique of trying to bring everybody into the office environment first. And then you start asking them questions. Then if required, you can be strict with them. You can be a little strong, right? And ask for the and ask for their accountability. So that is doable. So this is the difference between a sports team and a team in your office. Now, delegating tasks, you cannot just delegate to who is available and when they are available. Right? You need to delegate the task according to the strengths. And the funda or the mantra in this is that you have to delegate your most important task to the most dependable person. Now, notice the word that I'm using here. I'm using the word dependable. I did not say the best person or the best person in your team or something like that. I said the most dependable person. Now, let me give you an example. Many times it will happen that some of the team members in your team will be very diligent. If you give them a task, they'll put their head down for 2 hours focused and they'll complete that work. Okay. And sometimes there'll be some team members who talk a lot, right? Who are very street smart. If you give them a task that, okay, why don't you go and talk to this person and get this done? They will jump on it. They will go, they'll talk to that person and get this thing done from them, right? So what will you do? Now, delegating stuff to the most dependable person, if I'm having a critical government audit coming or government auditors coming into my company, okay, I would put the street smart guy in front of the auditors and say, okay, you handle the auditors, because I know he will manage them. I know he will talk nicely to them. He will be a soft talker. He'll be street smart and he'll get things done from them. Okay. And I'll put the diligent guy to manage all the backend documentation that is required for this audit. If I put the diligent guy, who may or may not be the best communicator, in front of the auditors will have 10 other. This is how you have to manage. You have to delegate the task depending on what are their strengths. Understand their strengths and then manage your work around it. Right? You have to learn to manage the team given to you. I've been stressing this all along. It says most dependent person gets the important task, but what happens to other team members in the team? No, I'm not saying forget about important, unimportant. Right person for the right job. That could be the most dirtiest job ever in your team. But if it is important and if it's given to the right person, it will get done. So forget about important, unimportant job. Right? As a team leader, not everybody can get the most important jobs every time. Right? There'll be a lot of dirty jobs to be done. As a team leader, you may have to also do some dirty jobs as well. The right person for the right job needs to be put in. By important, I mean to say important in terms of his skill sets, not important as a team task. So as long as you're able to match the right task with the right skill set, you will be much better as a team member. Sometimes you may have to expose people to the wrong skill set as well to train them. Okay. Yes, somebody may have handled accounts receivable. Somebody may not have handled accounts payable. Okay. But in the long run, you want to expose them to accounts payable. So transfer them there. First 1 or 2 months, they'll be uncomfortable. That is also possible. So while you are delegating the most important stuff to the most, can't build diversity, right? You don't want new skill sets. You don't want the people to learn new skill sets. But you want that as well. And does not mean that all the cream task is given to 1 or 2 people and everybody else is doing the dirty job. No. A dirty job can also be an important job, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Matching the right person with the right role, a right task. Focus on individual strengths. Every individual will come with their own strengths. Somebody is a good organizer. Somebody is very diligent. Somebody is a good organizer, but always makes mistakes in his workings, right? That's fine. Everybody has one flaw, right? As long as you are able to play by the strengths of your team and you're bringing out the best out of your team, which doesn't happen overnight. It will take time for you to build. Then you will be able to manage that team much better. Never ever hold a permanent grudge. Okay? As a team leader, you will have differences with your team. You will have creative differences with your team. You will have certain fights with your team, which is okay, but never ever hold a permanent grudge. Okay? When I made some mistakes as an individual contributor, I had this one amazing boss, high standards. He used to always like maintaining high standards. Yeah. Even the slightest mistake and he will thrash you, right? But he was the most friendliest guy I've ever met in my life, right? So whenever there is a mistake, right, when I made a mistake, he used to call me to his cabin and he used to talk such in strict manner. How can this happen? Why did you not pay attention to this, that? A few minutes after that, half an hour after that, when I meet him at lunch table, okay, he used to be the most friendliest guy. Okay, you won't believe that. Was this the guy who thrashed me 30 minutes ago? Right? That is the quality that is expected. Right? Maintain high standards, maintain strictness. It's okay. Right? But when it is not required, you be the friendliest person possible. That is the way to do it. And don't carry grudge home. Okay? Once a person makes a mistake, all of us will make mistakes. Your team members will make mistakes. But you don't, that mistake is an instance, right? You don't connect that mistake to the person and say that whenever I give something to this guy, always makes mistakes. And it will manifest. That person will become like that. Don't do that. Okay. So mistake is an instance. Don't equate that with a person. Don't attach it to the person. Right? He has made mistake in that moment. So you need to be strict in that moment. Don't carry that grudge home. Right? Try and look at the process flaw first and then blame the person. In most cases, it will be that we may not have delegated it correctly. In most cases, we may not have prepared a template which is flawless. That's why the employee got confused and he prepared some other data, right? So make sure that your process is so flawless and idiot-proof that the employee is unable to make a mistake, right? So look at the process flaw first and then come to the person. Then maybe. So these are the 3 steps. If you are taking on a new role as a leader, as a manager in a company, right? First 6 to 8 weeks, assess. Observe, be a silent observer. Don't be a process hero. Then organize. Get yourself organized. Be familiar yourself with all the calendars. Okay, with the checklist, put things on autopilot. What is the team doing? What time are they doing it? Are they following the calendar? Are they following the deadlines? Are they scheduled? Right? What time are the meetings? What time are the recurring meetings? Understand all of these things and organize yourself. And then comes manage. Managing is building relationships, building rapport with the teams, internal, external, building rapport with the stakeholders, your managers, right? Understanding the deliverables, delegating the important tasks to dependable people, who's dependable, understanding the strengths. All of these things are part of managing, which will be an ongoing task for you. Okay, simple 3-step managerial framework: assess, organize, manage. The framework is simple, but implementing is slightly challenging. But it'll happen with practice. Quick activity here, or rather some comments that I want from you, right? Did you find the 3-step managerial framework helpful? What are 1 or 2 of your biggest takeaways from this 3-step managerial framework? I want you to respond in the chat box. I hope everybody is listening to me. Yes, I understood that it might be helpful for you. It would be interesting if you can just type in 1 or 2 key takeaways from the framework, identifying the strengths of each team member and then playing by it. That's a good point. What else? Not holding any permanent grudge. Knowing the processes well before coming up with your recommendations and improvements. Yes, that's a good point. Okay. So I got some responses, although not as much as expected. Yeah, I think now the comments are coming up. Probably there is some lag. Allocate the right job to the right team member. Don't be a process hero. Make workplace a healthier one, right? Create the right environment in your team, right? And you can control your environment in your team. Strictness is required, and you are not doing anything wrong. Yes, absolutely. This is one thing that I really struggled with. I'm a very soft, nice kind of a guy, right? It's very difficult for me to be strict. That does not come by my nature, but I had to learn it. Very helpful, very interesting experiences. Okay, not recommending any process improvements initially. Delegate everything. Delegating to your team in the long run is very helpful. Build the right attitude slowly with all the team members. Proper planning and execution, that is being organized. Yes, absolutely. Great. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Come back on the screen and focus. There's some more comments. Faisal says, very often new team manager find easy to ask for more from the teams because that's easy, rather difficult to set right expectation from the stakeholders. I mean, it will always be a balance, right? As long as you are able to, one of the most important things for you as a team leader would be to fight for the right kind of deadline with an external stakeholder, right? You have to stand by your team And say if some team stakeholder is asking you that, can you give this report to me by tomorrow? You need to have the stronger relationship with that stakeholder, saying that you will pick up a phone call and tell that person saying that, hey, sorry, the team is busy with audit. Is it okay if I give this to you on Friday instead of tomorrow? Yeah. So that is something which you will have to, as a team leader, build these as well. How to manage government clerks who have no motivation to work? I don't think so that is the right way to look at things, right? I don't think that is the right way to look at it, right? So not all government. I worked for a government company, okay, and it was one of the most robust and private-looking companies that government company can be. I worked for more weekends on that particular task. I had an excellent team who was so very good with their job. Right? They only knew, they were not ambitious enough, but they only knew a limited stuff. But they were good at their work. That's not always the case. It's a mix. You will find some quality employees. Sometimes you may not. It's a mix. But yes, that's a concern. Yeah. So let's move forward. Some of the checkpoints, like we may or may not have some understanding about leadership roles, or we may be thinking that okay, leadership roles are these, but they are not actually not. Right. So let's look at some of the checkpoints and understand what leadership roles are and what they are not. Okay. So the first one is leadership is a social process, right? Which means that it's people that you're dealing with. It's not processes, machines that you're dealing with, which means the more you are able to understand and behave well with people, right? Understand their nature, understand their character, where they're coming from, their context, right? It's a social process. And the more you will be able to understand this, that it's about people, the more you will be able to become a better leader. Now, I'll share with you one interesting example here. One of the female attendees of one of my advanced team leading courses that I conduct, right? She had this peculiar issue that one of her team leaders was very abusive. Abusive means that his talk was not very nice, and he used to use cuss words every now and then, like a comma and a full stop, right? And I'm sure all of us must have met people like this, right? His intention was not to actually, he doesn't mean that particular word that he's, but his style of communicating is that, right? And he used to always use that cuss word in a sentence, like a comma or a full stop, right? And this female team member was very uncomfortable with this. When I started discussing more about this, I understood that this particular person has an upbringing which was slightly different. I mean, he was from a boys' school, then later on, he was in a boys' hostel and a boys' college. So he has never interacted with female colleagues in the large part of his life, right? So probably he doesn't know. I mean, he treats girls as if they're boys, right? Probably he deals with the same people in the same way. I mean, some people may like it. Some people will find it very uncomfortable, right? And there are certain ways that you respect women. There are certain ways in your mannerisms that you should be mindful of. The way male colleagues interact could be slightly different when you are interacting with a female colleague, especially in a professional setting. You have to be aware of that, right? So this is the social process that I'm talking about, right? If he doesn't understand this environment where individual team members are coming from, it will be very difficult for him to manage. And ultimately, it got so much to her head that she quit her job and she joined somewhere else. Now, fortunately, she got a managerial role, so which was a promotion for her, good thing for her. But within the team environment, this was a great lesson for us that, okay, if you are coming from a different background, right, you may not be aware of it, but you are actually being abused. You are not particularly behaving in a certain way that your team is expecting you to behave. So understand the social process and then be on top of it. Yeah. Leadership is a dynamic process and often non-binary in nature. We accountants and finance professionals are always tuned to think binary. Tax is deductible, not deductible, right? Accounting entry can be passed, cannot be passed. We have the information, we don't have the information. We are used to look at things in black and white or in a binary situation, a yes or no situation. But leadership is very, very dynamic in the process. It may not exactly be the same solution may not work in two different contexts, right? So it's more environmental, more contextual in nature. So you have to be aware of this fact. Leadership is less about the strong, charismatic individual and more about the group of people working together to achieve results. Everything that you see and read on leadership, they make it about the leader. Leader should be this, leader should be that. They make the team leader a Superman. But the fact is that as long as you are able to take people along with you to achieve the results, it is less about how you are as an individual. It's more about how you are in a group setting and how you are taking all of them together to achieve those results. So when you are looking at a team leading role, always think about the group, right? And not about you as an individual. Yeah, you may or may not be in control of doing that, right? But think about the group, think about your team, and then you will be able to be a better team leader. Leadership is a delicate balance between being strict and being friendly. It's a delicate balance of head and heart. This is the point that I struggle with the most, right? Like I told you, I'm very soft by nature. I'm a nice guy types, right? So it took some hard work for me to learn how to be strict, to use that tone, to change that tone to discipline people. I mean, it was difficult for me to learn that, but you'll have to learn it, right? On the other way around, some of you may be strict types. You may have to learn how to be soft at times and how to be more empathetic at times, right? Always be mindful of this fact. Hire for attitude, knowledge and skills can be trained, right? Now, in most cases, what might happen is that if the person qualifies certain basic technical criteria, then the next step that you will evaluate this person is on attitude, right? And you will have to conclude by looking at certain behavioral aspects, behavioral questions, okay, and then decide about this team member. I'll give you a very interesting example. Take me through a situation where you have had an argument with your boss. Okay. Now, first of all, there is a smile on the candidate's face that what is this guy asking? And then he thinks about it and he gives me a situation that on one occasion I was telling that the accounting entry needs to be passed like this, but instead my boss recommended that it needs to be passed like this. And so we had some creative difference on that particular task. And next, immediate follow-up question, argument, right? Now, some people say that, I was right. Some people say my boss was right, or some people say boss is always right, whatever the case might be, right? But the answer that I'm looking for is a diplomatic answer. I want the person to tell me that it's not about me being right or my boss being right. It is about what is the right process, what is right for the company. You see how I made it a principal level discussion, how I did not make it about me or my boss. And I became very diplomatic in my answer. That is what I'm looking for, right? I want people who can communicate better. I want people who have the right attitude, right? And not a yes person as well, and not a no person as well, right? It's a delicate balance to achieve, but that's what you have to look at. Apart from their technical skills, that whether they know certain accounting standards or no, whether they can prepare financial report, whether they can pass accounting entries, that's all fine. But certain qualitative checks, certain behavioral checks, culture fit checks will also have to be done. And you will have to come up with your own questions. I'm not saying use the same question, but you will have to come up with your own question to understand whether this person has the right attitude. And one of the things that I always looked at when I was hiring team members is that, is this person coachable? Will this person listen to me or will he apply his own brain every time? Yes, I want people to apply their brains, but I also want people who can listen to me. Right? Listen to me not in an authoritative sense. Listen to me in the sense where when I'm talking about a certain suggestion, when I'm talking about a certain priority, they should be able to digest that and then come up with their questions accordingly. One of the other checkpoints that I always used to evaluate while hiring people in my team is that, what is the quality of questions that they ask me in the interview? For example, during the interview, it typically starts like this, right? Tell me something about yourself, blah, blah, blah. Then we talk about certain work experience. And at the end, I ask them a question that, do you have any questions for me? Sometimes I have had people asking me about office timings. Is it a 5-day week? Do we have to come all 5 days to office now? That's a new question that people are asking, right? Hybrid work environment, right? Do we have to work on all 5 days? So these are the questions that I get asked. But that is the worst thing that you can ask in your interview. What I'm looking for is that, like, for example, when I was giving interviews, I always ask these 2-3 critical questions to my managers. Okay. And if my interview doesn't give me a chance, I always say, I had a couple of questions, if I may ask. And then they'll say, okay, sure, ask us, what is your question? And that time you have to ask these 2-3 critical questions. One is, how big is the team and who will I be reporting to? If that's not clear in the job description, then you can ask this question. The second thing that you ask is, what according to you are the top three challenges in this role that you want me to take care of? That will give you some more information. They'll start giving you some more information about the role that will help you understand the role better. And that will help you decide whether you want to take on this role or no. Right? So that's a very smart question to ask. The third question that I used to always ask is that, what are some of the tools that we are using? What ERP are we using? What FP&A tool are we using? Right. So that always generates curiosity to understand whether, okay, this guy wants to understand what tool are we using. This guy wants to know more about the work. Right. Or sometimes if you're applying for an FP&A role, you can always ask, do we do a quarterly forecasting or a monthly forecasting? So I want people who can come and ask me smart questions, because they'll have to probably ask these smart questions to my cross-functional stakeholders as well. Right. So these are some of the things that you will always have to keep in mind when you're hiring new team members. So hire for attitude, knowledge and skills can be trained. Moving forward, leadership isn't a destination, it's always a journey, right? So you'll always keep improving, you'll always keep learning new things as a leader, and you'll have to constantly look for new techniques, new ways to manage your team, right? So it's a constant journey that you will be looking for. So we have covered a lot of ground, and we have a few more things to cover. So let's do a quick recap of what we have covered so far. First is that we started by understanding about the mindset, right? Why managerial skills are important. I gave you 4 strong reasons of why managerial skills are important, right? Different manager scenarios, 4 different scenarios, same team becoming a team leader, same company and a different team, different company, different team leader, right? All of those different scenarios, and each of these scenarios come with a different kind of dynamics that you will have to be aware of. Establishing trust with the team. What are some of the quick things that you can do to establish trust with your team? We also saw some examples of good versus bad manager. We all took a pledge, right? That we will not be a bad manager, we'll be a good manager in our roles, right? And then some fact checks about what managerial roles are and what they are not, whether a qualification is helpful for you or not, whether experience is a guarantee for you to become a team leader or not. They are not, right? So we know that. And readiness is something which companies focus on, and you are more ready than you think. Always remember that, right? You're more ready to take that plunge than you think. Then I introduced you to a three-step managerial framework: assess, organize, manage. Assess was all about understanding your position and hierarchy, your team members, your deliverables, all of those things in your environment, processes. And then we move to learn about organize, scheduling as many things as possible, learning to put things on autopilot so that your team doesn't come to you every now and then. How do you kind of use checklists, calendars, right? How do you spend your day? How do you need to generate focus time during your day? All of those things we learned in the organized part. And then comes manage, curbing that natural tendency to delegate, curbing a natural tendency to do everything yourself. Learn how to delegate, matching the right team member with the right requirement, right? Leveraging their individual skill sets and strengths, right? All of these things are important in the manage part of the thing. So assess, organize, and manage. Right? And then we look at certain checkpoints. That leadership is a very social process. You need to learn about managing people, talking to people. Right? It's a dynamic process, not a black and white answer, not a black and white situation every time. It's a delicate balance of head and heart. Right? You have to learn to be strict at times. You have to learn to be soft at times. Right? Hire for the right attitude. Everything else can be trained. Right? And it's a continuous journey, and you'll have to consistently keep learning new things, keep upgrading yourself on your leadership journey. Okay. So that's what we have covered so far. Okay. Now that you have learned so many things about becoming a successful team leader, manager, right? So we covered a lot of ground today. Right? Do you realize that how amazing it would be to become a top leader, top manager in your company instead of an individual contributor, right? Top level managerial roles will help you climb up your executive ladder much faster, right? Managerial skills will help you climb up your executive roles much faster. Yeah. Now, do you want to learn all these high-paying skills as a manager? More skills which are important for you to become a team leader or a manager. Yeah. If you're all enthusiastic about it, type yes in the chat box. Type yes in the chat box. Okay, we see quite a few yeses here. I think there is a slight lag when you are typing and then when it reaches to me, but yes, I see a lot of yeses in the chat box. Fantastic. Now, while there are tons of things that one needs to learn, right, to become a better leader, right, and all of things cannot be learned overnight, and all of things cannot be learned in a 3-hour workshop. You know, I've shared as much as we can. We've tried to tackle as many situations as we can in the best possible way in this 3 hours workshop. Okay. So what I have done is, for learning all the advanced skill sets that are required for you to become a successful team leader, I have come up with a detailed program called Finance Leadership Masterclass. Right? So which is a 4 weeks program where you will learn step by step of how you can transition from an individual contributor to a top-notch team leader, right? become a world-class leader. I have been a CFO. Okay, I have led teams. I have built teams in India and in the Middle East. Okay, and I've also trained dozens of managers who I'm proud of today that they have reached high positions. They are leaders. They are managing multiple teams as well, right? And a couple of them have even reached C-suite levels as well, which is amazing for me. And I'm really, happy for that particular thing, right? So Finance Leadership Masterclass is an advanced program that I conduct, 8 modules. Module number 1 is all about preparing for managerial roles. How do you transition from individual to managerial roles? What are some of the mental blocks that you need to overcome? How do you re-engineer your thinking to become an actual leader, manager? How do you condition yourself? What are some of the changes that you need to do in your resume? How do you tackle interviews, right? Interviewing your candidates, right? Interviewing or your interviews as a manager, right? When you are going for team leading roles, how do you tackle those interviews, right? In module 2. Module 3 is about understanding your role, right? Your company, your processes, your stakeholders, your positions. There are certain frameworks, templates that will help you understand and take control of your role much faster. Understanding your team. How do you do a team SWOT analysis? What are some of the templates that you can use for it? How do you understand the deliverables? How do you map the deliverables to the right team member? All of these things we'll understand in the understanding your team module. And if you notice that these 3 and 4, both these modules are all about understanding. So you can correlate them with the assess step of the 3-step managerial framework, right? Module 5 is about being super organized, right? That's going to be your superpower. I'll share with you some tools, techniques, right? How do you structure your day? All of those things that will help you put things on autopilot and become a super organized manager. Team number 6 is about building a great team. What are some of the fundamentals of leading a team? How do you delegate, right? I'll share with you a simple delegation framework, right? How do you interview candidates? What do you ask? How do you build a case for hiring a new team member? Many times when you ask for a new team member, the senior management will say, why do you need a team member? But how do you build a strong case for hiring a new team member? All of these things we'll learn in building a great team. Now, if you see, module 5 and 6 is all about organized, right? Let me tell you, I have simplified it for you to an extent that all you need to do is attend 4 live sessions of 2 hours each. Sundays, we will meet for 2 hours. You will start noticing the result in 4 weeks, right? I have made it very convenient for you. This program will not just be, it's not some online course that you're doing, right? So it's a coaching program and we'll all be together and we'll also be meeting once a month and we can tackle any specific questions that you might have, right? I'll be available for addressing any questions that you might have. This program is based on 100% practical stuff, practical case studies, situations that you will be subjected to, and we learn through a practical set of learnings, right? You will get lifetime access to all the recordings of the sessions, all the content, all the templates, everything that we share in the session. You will also get lifetime updates to this program. The basic fundamentals of team leading will remain the same, but there could be some new techniques, new templates, new learnings that we may come across. We'll keep updating the program and you will get updates to all that program for lifetime, right? So that you can start your journey to becoming a team leader in a confident manner. And you will also get certification from FP&A Professionals Institute as a certified team leader, right? Certified finance team leader. So that is a certification that you will get, right? All in all, very simple, 4 live sessions, 8 hours is all I ask for you to stay with me. No homework, no exercises, nothing. I can guarantee you that this will be the best 8 hours that you will be investing, in your career. Okay. Not only this, I have also got 5 special bonuses, but only for the first 10 participants in this program. Number 1, you will get a A to Z guide to how to become a bad manager. Now, wait a minute. What is this? How to become a bad manager? So this is a simple guidebook that I've compiled, which will help you understand what not to do as a manager, right? It is important to understand what you should not do as well, right? What a great manager needs to do. Yes, that is right. But what you should not do, that is also super, super important. And this guidebook will help you for that. This guidebook will come as a bonus to you, free for lifetime. Get a powerful list of behavioral questions that you can ask. I told you that hire for attitude, right? I told you an example of a behavioral question as well, right? Which is, tell me a situation where you had an argument with your boss. So that is a behavioral question that you're asking. So I have a powerful list of behavioral questions that I'll share with you as a guidebook, which you can use to ask in your different situations to your team members that when you plan to hire them. Yeah. Get an ultimate performance review guidebook. Performance review is one of the most dreadful experiences that people may go through, right? You have to give feedback to your team members. not only give it to their face, but you have to also write the commentary in their appraisal forms. It's not an easy task at all. But this guidebook is a comprehensive guide that all you need for you to tackle performance reviews and also give your commentaries in performance reviews. It has templates that you can use right away. Get a complete guide on 22 must-have skills for team leaders. Now, there could be dozens of skill sets which are required for team leaders. But I have done my research and distilled all of them into 22 most important skills that team leaders should have, right? And this ebook will also, you will get for free for lifetime. Apart from that, you will have private access to FP&A Professional Institute's community, where you will get to work and grow with the smartest brains across the globe. It's a global alumni community where we have people from, you'll not only learn management and team leading skills, but you'll have access to people who understand financial planning, financial analysis, financial modeling, FP&A tools, Excel and presentation skills, AI in finance and FP&A. All of these things are some of the topics that we keep discussing in the community, and you will have community access to this community for lifetime. We have got dozens and dozens of testimonials. Today, I'm proud to say that a couple of them have even reached head of finance kind of roles. For one of my mentees, Harsha, that you see here on the screen, is managing a team of 45 people. He's leading in a head of finance function, and I'm extremely happy that he's reached there. And so there have been dozens and dozens of people who have got great results after attending this particular masterclass. When is the masterclass starting? The masterclass starts next Sunday on 27th October, right? All I told you was that I need 4 Sundays from you, 2 hours each Sunday, right? 4 Sundays starting from 27th October, right? For this priceless masterclass, right? And imagine the kind of ROI that you will get when you take on a team leading or a managerial role, when you get to the next level. But I leave it to your imagination. But the investment that will go into this program is 56,000 rupees, but not for this time, not for webinar attendees, right? For all the attendees today, there is a limited offer for the workshop, and you will get this workshop for only 12,199 rupees. In dollar terms, that is roughly $140, $145, right? So in this workshop, you will get this access only for 12,199 rupees. You will get the 8 advanced modules that I discussed. Apart from that, you'll also get all the bonuses, the A to Z guide to becoming a band manager, list of critical hiring questions that you can ask, ultimate performance review guidebook, 22 must-have skills for team leaders, and access to FPI's global community, alumni community. All of these things for just 12,199 rupees only. Okay. But remember, this is only for the first 10 registrations. We will share the link to this program in the chat box. Asif, yes, Asif has shared the enrollment link in the chat box. Okay. And you can go to the enrollment link and use coupon code early100. And remember, the bonuses are for the first 10 participants. So make sure that you utilize it as early as possible. Do check out this program if you are planning to enroll in here. I give you time to do that. But we are available here. We'll take on any questions that you might have about the program, about team leading in general, about what the program is, about finance team leading in general. So I'm here available to answer any of your questions. Okay. So make sure that you take benefit of this program. Remember, when I took on my first team leading role, right? We did not have LinkedIn back then. There was no mentors, online coaches. All of this was not available. I really struggled in my first team leading role, right? So this is my way of giving back to the community. And everybody who has done this program has given me great feedback. And in fact, I have so much confidence in this program that I can give you 100% guarantee that go through this program for 4 weeks. And if you don't find this valuable, I'll refund your money 100%. I don't want to keep it. How confident I am about this program. This will be the best investment that you will ever make in your career. It's not a 15-day, 30-day experience. It's a 100% guarantee that I'm giving. I can give you a guarantee that your team leading skills will be significantly leveled up after going this program. Oswaldo says, go back to module 1 and 2. Yes, module 1 and 2 was about readiness, right? So preparing for managerial roles. What you need to do before taking on a leadership role or taking on a managerial role, right? So how do you prepare for it? How do you prepare your resume? How do you condition yourself? How do you rewire your mindset? All of those things were covered in module 1 and 2. Tejinder has a long question, so let me read this out. Question related to not being a process hero and 2 scenarios you mentioned earlier. How can one become a team leader? Okay. I wanted to ask how to win a team's respect, especially from someone who was likely competing for the same team leader position. Yes, that's a difficult thing to do. And this becomes trickier when you move to a new team or an organization and you don't know the team process. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have expertise to give suggestions on the process improvements and all. Right? No, yeah. And the team might feel that I am someone who they cannot walk up to. Okay, how do I lead by example in such case? People make perceptions in the first 90 days. Yeah, absolutely. I think Tejinder has quite a good set of questions here. So let me address these one by one. Okay. First question is that when you take on a new role, especially obviously you don't know the team, you don't know the processes of a new company that you're undergoing. So that's why I said that in the first few weeks, you don't need to be a process hero. All you need to be is be available for your team, right? If they ask you a question, by being a team leader does not mean that you have instant answers, instant solutions for everything. You are allowed to say that, okay, let me think about this and come back to you. And you can do your research in the background. You can check about it. You can talk to your senior. You can talk to other people in the company, right? It's not that, right? But you have to know what right questions to ask, right? That is, as long as you can manage that, you'll still be in a better space. Win teams trust, all of this will happen with time. It cannot happen overnight. But the number one way that I shared with you was helping the team, right? You are available for the team to listen to their problems. Sometimes listening to their problems is also like half solving the problem, right? All of these things are important. Yes, you will be judged in the first 90 days, right? I'm not saying don't do process improvements in the first 90 days. If you notice some low-hanging fruit which can be done and implemented immediately, do it. Right? I'm not saying you should not do any process improvements in the first 90 days. Right? So I'm saying that there is no clear-cut formula that if you do these 1, 2, 3 things in 90 days, you will be a super champion team leader. That is what I cannot give you. But all I can give you is explore certain scenarios, understand certain dynamics, and then navigate your situation accordingly. So it is too contextual. We can practice for 10 different things in the next, but there could be some 11th kind of a ball that will come and it will take you out. Right? That's what happens, but it's fine. Faisal has a question. Which one of those mistakes you mentioned, which two would be thinking are the worst and the most common? If you are a manager who is very strict the moment an employee enters into the organization or enters into the company, right? Or in the morning, let's say 9:30, the team member walks into the room and you say, that is one of the worst habits that you can, and it will kill the trust right away. And that person will never be able to open up to you next time onwards. Right? So be mindful of those kind of situations. I mean, if you are making certain process improvements without understanding the processes fully, in my previous company, I used to do this, right? So that also is not a great thing to do. What you can, of course, use is subtly mention it by saying that as a best practice, what I've always observed is that people do this or companies do this, So bring it out in this way. Slides and materials will be available for the participants. Oswaldo will share the recording with you. You will require the slides, but the recording will always be available with you and you can watch this workshop anytime you want. Okay, sounds good. Are there any questions, any thoughts? Let me just change the settings and I can allow you guys to unmute yourself as well. So just give me a second. Where are those settings? I'm not able to find that.
Do you want me to give back the host style?
So let me make you the host again. Yeah, you're the host.
Now,
how do you handle a team member who is non-cooperative and who is stopping or acting as a hindrance to run the process and lead a team? You have to understand the context as to why this person is behaving like this, right? Or why is he acting as a hindrance? Sometimes people are insecure that, for example, sometimes people own certain processes and for their benefit, for their good, if you want to still expose them to some other process, they might think that you're actually taking out the power from them, right? And giving it to somebody else. Yeah. So in that case, probably you'll have to assure that taking out this process and giving it to somebody else is in his favor, right? Or make it or sell it like a benefit to that person. So that how many times you will do the same thing? You're now ready for the next level. So why don't you take on this new opportunity that I'm giving you? Right? This is an old process. Give it to this person. He'll tackle it. You're much more senior. You're much more better now. You've grown in the team, right? If you don't use authority, but try and sell that new thing to the person as a benefit, right? And then probably his mindset will change or he will probably stop acting as a hindrance. This happened many times, when I wanted some other team member to grow and take on some more tasks and transfer this routine task from one person to the other. He think that I'm cutting his powers, but no, I was actually empowering him more. I'm giving him more power to take on a higher role. I'll tell you that you can never prepare for 100% of the scenarios. But of course, in the advanced Finance Leadership Masterclass, we cover a lot of scenarios, how to deal with a performing employee, non-cooperative employee. There's an employee who always wants to go early on Friday. How do you deal with this person? So we cover a lot of different situations, different role plays, different things. Of course, it's not possible to prepare for 100% of the scenarios, but majority of the scenarios, frameworks, techniques, we will cover in the leadership masterclass so that you will be confident as a team leader. You cannot leave it to chance. You should not start learning team leading skills when you become a team leader. Learn it beforehand and be ready for that opportunity. Right? By the time you realize that you are already a team leader and you start taking those steps to lead a team, you have already failed in your first team leading role. So don't leave it to chance. And not all of you will get a coach, will get a good boss who are interested in your growth. So take advantages of this. And I can guarantee you that this will be the best investment that you will make in your life. Cool. Happy to take on any more questions that you might have about team leading, unfortunately, leadership is not a straightforward black and white skill set that you can learn, right? It's not an Excel formula that once you learn it, it will be available with you for lifetime. The same formula may not be useful in a different context, right? So leadership roles are very much contextual. Ayushi has a good question. I've heard about gender biases existence. Do you think it exists? A female takes longer time to adjust in a leadership role or a managerial role. Her opinions are judged very quickly. Even if there is very little level of strictness, she will be quickly tagged as bossy, or it is just in the head. I don't think so. We can get a clear-cut remark like this, or a clear-cut bifurcation like this, that female bosses are like this or male bosses are like this. I've had some great female bosses in my career, right, who I really admire. There's no one straightforward black and white answer to this. But gender biases might exist, but the companies in general today are doing a great job in terms of promoting diversity. They are doing a lot of efforts to cut out any of the biases that are available in the organizations today, right? But having said that, there's no one straightforward rule for this. I've had so many chances that I have hired, in fact, more female team members in my career than male team members. That's an interesting statistic that I have, right? I selected people by merit, just plain and simple by merit, not by caste, not by their age, not by experience, not by what context they're coming from, right? On one occasion, there was this returning mother who I hired for a managerial role. I could have had a number of biases, where I could have said that, she's out of touch, she's not worked in the last one year or so while she was busy managing a family. I could have had 10 other biases. But plainly, by going by the interview, going by the merit, going by the conversation that I had with her, she felt to be a very capable candidate and I hired her. So again, I'm not saying something great about myself. I'm just saying that as far as possible, if you are unbiased and if you notice that a male or a female team member is great at what they are doing, go ahead and hire them. Filters also come with a lot of upbringing. Like, for example, I gave you that case, right? So if you are brought up in an environment which is male dominated, right, then possibly you are doing this male bias in a very subconscious way. You may not realize that whether you're doing this or not. I was brought up as a single child, in the family by a very warm set of parents, right? By a very strong, lovely mother, right? So the way I looked at women, the way I respected women was completely different when I grew up. But that may not always be the case. Somebody could have been brought up in a very male-dominated environment at home. But it is your duty as a boss to be aware of all these things. Not everything can be trained in a training program to your employees, I'm saying, to your team members. So they may come from different upbringings, come from different backgrounds. We have another 5 minutes or so to take on any questions that you might have about team leading in general, about finance team leading in general, or about the program, what is it, and about any benefits, anything that you might want to ask. It is important that you start leading the skills before even you hit that role, right? Like, for example, I'll tell you a story. Right? I became a CFO, but I prepared for it at least for 6-7 years, right? It did not happen by chance. It's not like school that from 9th standard, you'll be promoted to 10th standard, 10th standard to 11th standard. No, it's not that easy, right? You have to display readiness. You have to display certain level of executive presence. Then you will be considered for those roles. Then you will be considered for the next level. And it all comes with practice. It comes with a relentless pursuit to upskill yourself on a continuous basis. By the way, we always talk about women bosses, or this point that you brought about gender biases, right? There is one more context that we all forget, right? Not all of us are brought up in a way where we are comfortable to communicate with women colleagues. So many times, male colleagues are hesitant to open up to female bosses. So they may end up keeping things to themselves or keeping their problems to themselves. It's changing with time, but I'm saying it could again be possible that male colleagues are not comfortable opening up to female bosses. And it could be the other way around as well. Sometimes the female colleagues are not ready to open up to male bosses. But I'm just saying that it's a very dynamic environment that you will be operating in. You will try as much as possible to make a comfortable environment for everybody to open up, right? That may or may not happen every time. I've had so many discussions, like for example, on one of the occasions, one of my female colleagues, she came back and discussed about certain aspects about managing her child's schedule or a tussle that she was having with her mother-in-law. I can't solve a fight with her mother-in-law, but I could give her whatever concessions I can. I gave her my suggestions saying that, okay, this is how you can plan your day, or maybe you do this, or delegate this, or, why didn't you start 1 hour late and end 1 hour late? I'm okay as a boss to give you that flexibility. And I did whatever I could by staying within the disciplinary umbrella, that you can't give too many concessions to too many people, so much so that it becomes a norm. By staying within the disciplinary boundaries, you can give as many concessions as you want. Every time a team leader takes on a role, right? So when you're taking on a team leader role, there's a company culture, and there is always a subculture operating in your team. And you are in charge of this subculture. Right? There could be a company culture that everybody works late in the organization. You can make that subculture in your team where you're okay with people leaving it as long as you're able to control the work. Not every time you may be in that authoritative position, So when I was in that authoritative position, when I was a CFO managing a small team of finance staff, on one of the Fridays, I said that, okay, Friday mornings, I said that let's everybody leave at 4 o'clock. So when you reach that position of authority, you may get a chance to manage your subculture to some extent. Who is the target beneficiary of the finance leadership full course that you mentioned? Okay. The target beneficiary is individual contributors who are looking to take on team leader roles, or there are new team leaders or who have been a team leader or a manager in the last 3-4 years, but they want to level up their skills of leadership. Right? These are the two categories that I'm aiming for. This is not a program where I'm teaching you to become a CFO. It will be the first line of managers. It may not be experienced leaders. If you're a leader who is already managing multiple teams, then this program. But if you're a team leader managing one team, yes, you may find some hints here and there which can help you level up your team leading skills. That is for sure. It is not for a VP who has multiple teams under him and who can manage multiple teams. It is not designed for that. Feel free to attend this program. You may find some things new, but primarily it is designed for people who are new managers or recent managers, or individual contributors who are looking to take on team leading and leadership roles. So I'll wait for 30 more seconds. If you guys have any questions, if you're not, then we can wind up for today. And I'm always available on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any career questions. And I hope to see you in one of the other webinars or masterclasses or workshops that we conduct. Keep learning, keep growing. Don't leave these important skills to chance. Be prepared for it. Fortune favors the prepared mind, as they say, right? So be prepared for all of these things. And there are so many different dynamics that you can't imagine. So we'll discuss many of them in the masterclass, which will definitely help you level up your skills. Thank you so much, everyone. If there are no more questions, we can wind up for today.